Hey folks, I want to do a little comparison video here of Micro-9s that I have access to. Now these four right here are the ones I have access to. We have the Ruger LC9, the Walther PPS, the Kahr PM9, and the Kimber Solo. There are other ones on the market. I have not fired any of them besides these four. So I have not fired the SIG, I have not fired the Smith & Wesson Shield, I have not fired the Breda Nano. These here are the four, so I can speak on these right here. This review is not based on anything else that I've read online or seen online. This is based only off my experience with these four handguns. Now, I am going to also add that I don't have as much experience with the Kahr PM9. Alright, the one I have carried the most and have the most experience with is the Ruger. This is the one I have owned the longest. Second most experience would be the Kimber. I've put a lot of rounds through this and I've carried this. Third would be the PPS, and fourth is the Kahr. I have probably only put about 100 rounds through the PM9. Okay. All four of these I do have review videos on, so I'm going to kind of touch on the highlights of these pistols. If you need more detailed information, then please seek out my other videos in which I do a more detailed review. So, there are a few areas that I want to hit on with these, and first off is reliability, because I think that's the most important thing. And reliability is that when your life is on the line, if you pull the trigger, the gun goes bang every time. Okay? That is the most important thing. And for me, the first place is the Walther PPS. It has eaten everything that I have fed through it. I have had not one jam, not one malfunction, not one fail. Everything has went through this perfectly. From self-defense ammo down to cheap ammo. Everything I have fired, it is shot. Okay? Second place, I would give to the LC9. This one here, I think I have put probably somewhere, and I don't track ammo the way some people do, but I have put probably between 500 to 1,000 rounds through this. And this also has went bang almost every time. I have had a few, maybe out of between 500 and 1,000 rounds, maybe one or two misfires. That's about it. And some, they could have even been ammo manufacturing or ammo manufacturer's defect. Because, you know, like as far as primers, stuff like that. So with this, I feel comfortable with this. I feel 99.9, if not 100% sure or confident in the reliability of the Ruger. Third place, I would give to the Kahr. Now, like I said, I don't have as much experience with the Kahr, but I have never had any issues firing this either. I have not had any malfunctions with this. The reason I put it third, even though I have had no malfunctions, is because of the limited amount of ammo I've put through it. So as far as reliability, you know, I would pretty much rank all of these very similar. Alright. Fourth place reliability is the Kimber, and I have had a lot of issues with the Kimber. And it's all in this 8-round magazine. And when I use this 8-round magazine, I would say that I have 99.9% failure. It fails almost every time. I think out of all the ammunition I've put through this, I would say I've had maybe 1 or 2 times in which the high capacity magazine didn't jam. And it's always issues with when it's full, with the first and second round fired. Now, through the 6-round magazine, I have only had maybe, of all the ammunition I put through the 6-round, I've maybe had 1 or 2 fails. I've put at least 500 rounds through the Kimber. So the 6-round magazine is good. It's pretty reliable. Still, though, with all the issues, even though the 6-round magazine has been reliable, I'm still hesitant. Now, it is getting better the more I shoot, but at this price point, with the amount of ammo I put through it, I should not be having any issues with it at all, but I am. So for reliability, first, second, third, and fourth, and I want to stress that these are all very close, and the only reason the Kahr is third is because of the limited amount of ammo I've put through it, which is not the fault of the gun, but that's just kind of how it shakes out. I had to put some sort of ranking. Now, next is, I've listed durability. Now, I've kind of listed this as incomplete, and I didn't rank these guns, just because of the huge discrepancy in how much I have fired. I have carried this more than any other gun, and I've fired this more than any other gun. And I have had, durability wise, I've had to replace some parts on it. The slide spring I had to replace because it actually, through all the firing, the slide spring has, the guide rod spring has gotten to the point where when I walked, the gun rattled. Now, since I've gotten the new spring in there, it's not as bad, but you can still hear it a little bit. Now, that's not a huge issue, and it doesn't it hasn't affected reliability. Even with that weak spring, the reliability on it was still good. Now with the improved spring, it's better. Now, I also want to say the tolerances on these Micro-9s are very tight. You have to have a very strong recoil spring, and a lot of manufacturers recommend that they be replaced frequently. So I can't really, even though, you know, I had to replace it with the Ruger, it's kind of hard to ding them on that because all of these are going to have, or as far as I know, they're going to have a short lifespan. The Kahr, I have not put enough ammo through to test durability. The PPS, I've not put enough ammo through to test durability. The Kimber, like I said, I've put about 500 rounds through that, and I feel pretty safe in saying that this is a durable handgun also. Now, one of the things I do think these three will be more durable than this is due to the guide rod spring and the design of it as far as durability. I want to show you the difference in this spring on a Ruger LC9. It's got two springs, not the strongest of springs, and on this PPK, this is a much hardier spring. The Kimber and the Kahr also have this more heavy-duty captured spring. I think this is really going to lend itself to a lot more longevity. So, and I think that's an important factor when you are talking durability. From what I have read, that is the biggest issue with these Micro-9s is the recoil spring. So this is something I want you to keep in mind. Now, as for trigger, from what I have fired, I believe the PPS has the best trigger. It's short. There's a little bit of take up right there, but it's not mushy at all. Short, and then when you fire, it's nice and a crisp, clean break. I really like the trigger on that. The second best trigger, I would say, is the Solo. It's a little bit mushy though, and not as clean as a break as the PPS. A little bit mushier. But I do rank the Kimber second because it's got a relatively light trigger pull. Next, I would say the Kahr. Now, the Kahr and the Ruger have pretty similar triggers out of the box. They're really long. The Kahr is not quite as long as the Ruger, and I would say it has a little bit better break on it. Now, I've had a trigger job on this, so I can't really show you the out of the box, but the out of the box trigger pull is really, really long and pretty heavy. I rank the Kahr with a better trigger, mostly because, I mean, this trigger is slightly better, but the big difference, there's no safety on this. And I can deal with a heavier trigger pull if there's no safety. The LC9, I kind of feel like it has an unnecessary safety. Like if you look at the LCP 380, there is no safety. So it kind of justifies a heavier trigger pull. With this, there's a safety, so there's really no justification to having such a heavy trigger pull. It's really unnecessary. And if you look at like the SR9C and the SR9 that Ruger makes, they have really good triggers. So, as I said, it's really unnecessary to have such a heavy trigger pull. So, I gave this one the edge, not only because the trigger is slightly better, but because of the way it's set up without the safety. The lack of a safety at least justifies a heavier trigger pull. For shootability, I give the definite edge to the PPS. This shoots, it feels the recoil on it almost like a full-size handgun, or I shouldn't say full-size, but more along the lines of like a compact handgun instead of a micro-compact. So the recoil is extremely manageable with this, and some of it is because since it is striker fired, the bore height is closer to my hand, so there's less muzzle flip, but the recoil on it is by far the most manageable as compared to these other ones. And I believe, I don't know if it's grip angle. I'm not exactly sure what else it is that makes it more manageable, but it is. It shoots the best. And I'll also say it is the most accurate out of these four. Second place for shootability, I give to the LC9. I also think that it has the it's the second most shootability as far as recoil on it, and some of that also could be the Ruger and the PPS, which are essentially the same size. They're a little bit bigger than the other two. The other two are a little bit harder to hold on to. Like on the Kahr, I can only fit 2 fingers on it. The Ruger, I can fit 3. The Walther, I can fit 3. And this is the compact magazine. With the little bit longer magazine, it's even better. Now, the Kahr and the Kimber also have extended magazines, and those do help a little bit. I can get my third finger on there. But even so with those, they still are the worst as far as shootability. Now, so this is first, second. For third, I gave the Solo, and fourth, the PM9. And those are based off recoil and controllability. Muzzle flip, all those factor in. As far as accuracy, I believe these are pretty similar in accuracy. Solo might have a little bit of an edge. The Ruger's pretty similar too. Like I said, the PPS is the most accurate out of the 4. In my categories that I ranked these handguns in, I wanted to get an average to show you where they place as far as in my comparison. The PPS came in first in every category, so obviously the PPS for me is the winner out of all 4 of these. The Ruger came in next. It averaged 2.5. The Solo came in third. It averaged 2.75. And the Kahr came in fourth. It averaged 3.25. The shootability and the trigger really hurt the Kahr, and the reliability. And like I said, before, the reliability on this is, a lot of it is attributed to the fact that I just have not shot it as much. So you know, with my rankings, my average here, please take it with a little bit of a grain of salt, because I'm not saying that any of these are bad, and this is the only good one. That's not what I'm saying at all. I think they're all very close, but they do have their weaknesses, and that's kind of where my ranking comes from, is the weaknesses. And I also say to take it with a grain of salt because, like I said, I don't have the experience with the Kahr as I do with these two, and I don't have as much with this one. So, you know, maybe after more use, you know, maybe I'd have problems with that. I kind of doubt it, you know, but that is a possibility. So I think the best thing to do is, of course, and when I recommend to people, the best thing to do is always to shoot the gun. But if you can't shoot it, at least go to the store and take a look at them. And I think you'll find the PPS does have the best trigger out of these. So get your hands on them, see what they feel like, and go around and read other reviews besides mine, because when a manufacturer makes a gun, not all of them turn out perfect. There are some lemons. So read what other people say and take everything into an account. And then you also need to look at strengths and weaknesses and what's a priority for you. So as far as, like I said, reliability, you know, the Walther is very reliable. The LC9 has been very reliable for me, and I put a lot of rounds through it. And the Kimber, like I said, is a little bit finicky with ammo. You have to put all high-end ammo through the Kimber. You can't put any cheap stuff through it. It needs all high-end self-defense ammo. So you need to take that into account also, because it is a little bit more expensive to shoot. In this comparison, as I said, the PPS came out first. Now, I also want to say, I think the best value is the LC9. And I say that because the LC9 came in second place, but it's roughly half the price of these other four. And I say roughly. So I really like the Ruger, and also the magazines for the Ruger are a little bit cheaper. I know they're cheaper than the Kimber and the PPS. I'm not sure on the price on the Kahr. I didn't look that up, but I know the Rugers are pretty cheap. I think they're 20-25 bucks for the magazines for that, which is pretty cheap. I know these are around 40 to 50 bucks a piece. The MSRP on these handguns, the Solo is $815. The Kahr PM9 is $786. The Ruger is $449, and the Walther, I've actually had a little bit of a hard time tracking down the MSRP on it, but the street price I have found anywhere from as high as $6.99 down to $5.99, and I have found it on sale on occasion online at around $500. I believe the MSRP is $749, but I'm not positive on that. But as I said, you can find it for much cheaper. As all of them, you can find most of them a little bit cheaper. So now I want to show some of the similarities between these and differences. The PPS, Kimber, and Kahr are all striker fired. The Ruger is hammer fired. The PPS and the Kahr, of course, as you see, do not have safeties. The LC9 and the Kimber do. The Solo is a standard magazine is 6 rounds. High cap magazine is 8. On the PPS, this one here is actually the mid-length. That holds 7 rounds. This is the extended. That holds 8 rounds. And they also make one with just a base plate, and that holds 6 rounds. And just to show you, here's what it looks like with the... So it's almost a full-size trigger. Or, I'm sorry, full-size hand grip. The LC9 holds 7 rounds. It also comes in a flat base plate. It's kind of actually a little bit rounded. It takes this little knob off, and it's still the same capacity, but it gives you a little bit better concealability. It's not going to print this little corner here. But like I said, the round count is still the same. The Kahr is 6 and 7 rounds. One of the other differences you'll notice when I took this magazine out, the mag release is right here. It's a little bit different. I like it. It is truly ambidextrous, which is a good point. And it's pretty similar to the HK, which has a little notch there. Very similar action. Now, it is a little bit different, but you get used to it really fast, and with a little bit of training, it's not an issue at all. So don't let that make you shy away from buying that one. Now, the only downside to that, as far as I'm concerned, is that you're not going to be able to get this trigger guard Crimson Trace mounted, or trigger guard mounted Crimson Trace for this. They'll never be able to make one because you won't be able to take the magazine out. All of them have slide lock back. They're all pretty similar in that. Last round fired, the slide locks back. I like this. This has a very no snag side to it. Some people can say it's a little bit boring, but I like the fact that it's really smooth. I mean, there's essentially nothing to snag on this at all, which I think is really nice when you're carrying it concealed. And I also had somebody, I was watching another review, and they brought up a great point in that this, if you pocket carry, you don't have to worry about, like with buttons, sometimes things in your pocket can bump the mag release, but with this, nothing can really bump it and sprain it, so it's a little bit more secure as far as keeping your magazine in there. Another factor with shootability is the grip, and I think that is another thing that contributes to the good shootability with this. Is it has these little indentations here for your fingers, and I think that really helps give you better control of it. The gun stays in your hand, and I think that works out pretty good. Whereas this one on the LC9, the grip is okay. You actually kind of lose a little bit of grip by putting a Crimson Trace on there, and it does kind of affect it. The Kahr, I think, it feels like it should be aggressive, but I don't know if it's a size because it's so small and I can only fit 2 fingers on there. The grip is a little bit hard to hold on to on the Kahr. The Kimber, this is completely smooth, as is the back. This is extremely hard to hang on to. You really have to hang on to that one. In fact, I bought a limb saver grip to put on there, and that helps out immensely. This thing here is so smooth, it almost shoots out of your hand, especially if you're wearing any kind of glove or anything. And just to give you to show you, here it is with the extended magazine, and I would like to point out that on the Kahr and on the Kimber, the extended magazines are ugly as all get out. They don't match the gun at all. I think they look terrible. I definitely think that the Kimber and the Kahr could have done a better job of making an extended magazine for these. Now, they are functional in what they're supposed to do. They just do not look good at all. And as I said before, with the Kimber, I have had a hard time getting my handgun to cycle using these filled up with 8 rounds. And it's not this particular magazine here, because I've gotten probably close to 10 magazines from Kimber and they all do it. So it's not just this magazine. It's something with the design on that. Like I said, if I just load this to 6 rounds, it's fine, but when I load the 7th and 8th round, that's when I have an issue. And let me show you the sights. I think they all have good sights. The Walther, I think, is really good sights. I also think the Kimber has really good sights. The LC9 sights are a little lacking, which is why I did get the Crimson Trace on it. And the car's a little different, but it works well. Still good sights. So I threw a lot of information out there on these pistols. I hope that it kind of clarified some of the differences and similarities between these. If you have any questions at all, let me know I know this video might even raise more questions than it answers. I hope that's not the case, but you know, sometimes these videos are good because they get you, the viewer, thinking about things, and when you think, you come up with some really good questions. And I appreciate all the questions that you guys always ask me. So if you have any questions, let me know, and I will see you next time. Semper Fi.